Incoming request here for my fellow mech commanders and mech warriors. Working my way through some mailbag. Fritz, acquisition of mechs. Where should we start? What should we be looking at, given that there's so many mechs out there in the wild now, and just trying to understand how they all interplay and how they work. So from that perspective, of course, I assume new entries into Battletech, you're going to begin with the game of Armored Combat. That's going to jump you in. That's going to be your solid base. And I've pushed up to the channel here under the Battletech playlist. We have reviewed the mechs specifically in that box and the synergy, the different lances that you can build with them, just focusing on that. The idea is to get you into Battletech and understand how mechs work together and how lances work together. This now leads into the next piece in terms of mech acquisition. Ideally, I say ideally because I never operate this way, focusing on acquiring mechs that you're going to utilize rather than just going out and just kind of going crazy and buying and acquiring everything. But if you've been playing miniature war games for a while, you know the seductiveness of plastic. You know the acquisition of mechs and new toys and fun things to play. So sometimes it's a little bit chaotic with how you acquire your lance. But I wanted to kind of lay that foundation. And then, of course, we're going to turn it over to my fellow Battletech enthusiasts, mech warriors, and mech commanders here on the channel. Jumping in, I tend to break down mechs into three categories. We're looking at inner sphere. We are generalizing. There are some mechs that might fall into multiple categories, but essentially breaking it down into three. The first category, and we're going to focus on the third category for this vlog because this I feel is the best to help new players get into the game. So the first category is experimental tech, very specialized tech. Mechs that were designed in the narrative or on the tabletop for one very specific purpose. It doesn't really operate outside of this purpose. Two examples off the top of my head, and I enjoy both these mechs. Selecting mechs from my collection, one that I have experience with, the Firestarter. This is essentially a flamethrower mech. And the Vulcan. The Vulcan is an anti-tank, anti-infantry mech. When they fall outside of these roles, they're really not that great. So when you take this hyper-specialized experimental tech type mech, if it doesn't line up exactly, it's not really going to work as well for the battle value. Then we see mechs that are, this is the second category, specialized to some extent. And that specialization also comes at a price in that if you fall out of the specialization, it's not going to work as effectively, but it still has some bite. An example of that would be the Archer, one of my favorite mechs. The Archer likes to sit there and hit you with two LRM 20 packs. It wants to stay at range. It wants to rain those down. If it can fire indirect, even better. But if it closes, it does have the medium lasers. But its vulnerability, of course, is the tonnage of those LRM 20 packs, the vulnerability of the ammo, and the fact that in a close range brawl, it's not optimally going to be able to bring those 20 packs to bear. Yes, I could fire them off if I'm one hex away, and sometime I've done that, but it's not optimal. This then leads into this second category, kind of like category 2.5, where a lot of mechs fall into this place in that they do a little bit of everything. They kind of specialize in one area, but they've got some bite elsewhere. We see this with the Marauder. We see this with the Warhammer. They want to utilize those PPCs because inner sphere, these are the most powerful weapons in terms of damage and range. Yes, you've got an autocannon 20, but that's offset by the range. But the Warhammer and the Marauder, they've got some other things as they get closer in terms of lasers, in terms of short-range missiles or the autocannon. So they can mix at a lot of different ranges, but they want to kind of stick to one ideally. But if they find themselves out of it, that's okay. Then we've got this third category of mechs, and this is what I want to focus on. I'm going to name a few in my opinion, in my experience, and then we're going to turn it over in the comments to help build that list. So if you're new to Battletech, you can kind of look at some of these considerations for your collection. And if you're coming to this vlog sometime later after I posted it, we've got a good foundation. This category of mechs, I call them auto includes. I call them evergreen type mechs. These are mechs that just with the combination of tonnage, weapons, and ability, they are solid in multiple roles. They are solid in multiple situations. The type of thing where if you don't really know the mission and you're not really sure what to bring, if you find yourself with this mech, you're going to be okay. Now, on a side note, lots of great ways and different ways to play Battletech. Often, one of the ways that I will play will be we will decide battle value ahead of time or in that moment. We build our lances, we build our stuff. Then we'll randomly pick missions and we'll randomly pick hex maps. Like literally we'll just kind of shuffle the hex maps under the table and you draw one. Sometimes I will build lances because they're mechs I want to play. I bring Irby, I bring a couple other mechs, and then I find myself like on a desert map and it's a recon mission and Irby sad face. I know that going in. I say this because sometimes you'll build a lance and if you're going against the unknown mission, map, what your opponent brings, it's hit or miss, and that's part of the fun of the game. But if you want to be more conservative and build a lance or build a solid lance where it's like, look, doesn't matter what I'm going to face. Doesn't matter the terrain I'm on. These mechs are solid. These are the auto includes, the evergreens. So first one that comes to mind, the catapult. I mean, this is something that I think should be in everyone's collection. Stock. Oh, and I should say we are looking at stock mechs. Nothing wrong with variants, but the stock mech as the auto include. You've got good speed, you've got good maneuverability, you've got lasers, you've got LRMs. It's just solid wherever it is. Wherever it's working, it just works. Second, we're going to try and look at one in each category. The Jenner. Jenner is fantastic. In some games, Jenner should be illegal. You're like, this thing's a light mech? Well, it's super fast. Armor, okay. I mean, as okay as it can be for a light mech, but super fast and maneuverable. The weapons more weapons with the lasers and the SRM pack, it has better weapons than you find on most light mechs and on many medium mechs. Now, you can get in trouble playing that, pushing the heat and thinking it's a medium mech, but it can hunt down lights. It's got great speed. I mean, we've covered this Tactica. I've pushed it up to the archive here, the Battletech playlist. You don't know what to do. You don't know what to fight. You take a Jenner and a catapult, build around that. You're pretty solid. You're solid where that is and how that's working. In terms of heavier mechs, the Awesome. And Awesome's in the core set. The Awesome has PPCs. It has redundancy. It has no ammo, so you don't have to worry about ammo explosions. You can push the heat. It has more rear armor than some lights have front armor or some mediums have armor. I mean, it is just a walking tank. You pay for that in the battle value, but this is a great command mech. This is a solid type mech. And the interesting thing about the Awesome is you don't want to hang out there and just eat PPCs every turn. So you're like, all right, I'm going to get closer. And if I'm a mech, if I'm a heavier in assault, I'm like, look, I'm going to get closer. If I can't play the range game, I'm going to get closer. I'm going to utilize my other weapons, my medium lasers, my SRM packs, and I'm going to try and get close to kind of stuff those PPCs, so at least they can't fire them at me without penalties. Okay, well, the Awesome's got the Battle Fist. The Awesome will start kicking you. Physical attacks, you don't want to get close to an Awesome. An Awesome is an awesome mech, and it is definitely one of these auto includes. Building around there, utilizing that as a core, what other mechs do you see across multiple categories? Oh, we've got to do a medium too, just to kind of push that out. And we could look at it, say another heavy. Okay, two more. I would look at the Griffin. It's got a PPC. It's got LRM pack. They work. It's got maneuverability. It's got good armor. It's primarily a longer range fighter and a sniper type mech, but it's solid. It's going to work from that perspective. I would also look at the Thunderbolt, the T-Bolt. Now, T-Bolt is a little bit harder to play because you've got definitive heat management issues, but it has a mix of long range, medium, and short range weapon. It's got decent speed for its weight. It's got great armor. It's going to hold its own no matter where you find it. So turning it over to my fellow mech warriors, this third classification of mechs where they're just solid. They work, they're solid. If I don't know the mission, if I don't know the map, if I don't know what my opponent is going to bring, it's not like, and I've done this just for the lulz and want to do it. It's not like you showed up with 4 riflemen and a bunch of bug mechs. And it's kind of cool, and it could work in certain situations, but you are at a tremendous disadvantage across multiple potential situations if we don't want to find ourselves in that situation. So as you jump into Battletech and you're looking to acquire mechs, and of course you're going to develop your player personality and find out machines that you like. There's certain mechs that, I'm going to be honest, they're really not that good at all. But I routinely play them for a variety of reasons. I've had them so long. They're some of my older miniatures. One of my Battlemaster's a solid mech. I have to say that. But I have a Battlemaster that I have played this Battlemaster, this miniature, in 92 games of Battletech. 92 battles it has been through. I'm going to be at 100 soon. I mean, there's history behind that miniature. So as you go through your Battletech journey, there's going to be an affinity for certain things, and you'll go in that direction, and they might work. They might be terabad, but what are those evergreen mechs? What are those next step in the collection that if you're new to Battletech or you're building that Battletech momentum, you're going to branch out from there?